he's not well. I think that's the number one thing that we have to explain to people.
Anthony Scaramucci was briefly Donald Trump's White House communications director. He is the founder of Skybridge Capital and the co-host of a great podcast, The Rest is Politics USA, with Catty Kay. His book, The Little Book of Bitcoin, What You Need to Know That Wall Street Has Already Figured Out, is out now. Anthony Scaramucci, good afternoon from us. How are you?
It's great to be on. And I like the way you said briefly. You didn't say that I was unceremoniously fired because you're a polite person, but that was very nice of you. Thank you.
Well, like your podcast colleague, Catty, we're English ladies, Anthony, and we behave accordingly. Okay,
yes.
Now, Bitcoin,
I'm going to tell her you said that, by the way, when she's overly riffing me. I'm going to say that she's an English lady and that she needs to behave accordingly.
Yeah, okay. Well, you sock it to her. You've got our permission. So make the case for Bitcoin. I mean, I'm very scared of it. I wouldn't go near it. But you say it's portable, it's valuable, it's incorruptible, and it's good for the unbanked. Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for all of those reasons that you just said, but I mean, at the end of the day, what was created about 16 years ago is a decentralized ledger. And so if you think of your bank is basically a spreadsheet. You know, your assets are on one side of the bank, my assets are on the other. Let's say that you work for an auto dealership and I wanted to buy a car. Well, we're just moving digits from my account over to your account, and then you deliver me the car. And so when you stop and think about a transfer of value, it's really a technology between us. Money is effectively a technology that we're using so that we don't have to barter with each other. And so these computer programmers known as Satoshi Nakamoto figured out a way to create this immutable, unbreakable system that's quite scarce. There's only 21 million of these tokens on the internet. And they made the case that if this proliferated, this would be a very hard asset. You know, the Bank of England couldn't make any more of it. The Federal Reserve Bank of the United States couldn't make any more of it. And so it had a little bit of an inflation hedge to it as well. And so what we're saying here at Skybridge and what I wrote in the book is that this is a form of digital gold. Now, it may not be people of your or my demography, but younger people, our children, particularly my children in their early 30s, have accepted a digital world, and they recognize that they can use this decentralized, fully transparent spreadsheet as a way to transfer value between each other. And the reason why I think it's good for the unbanked is that you don't need a bank account to do it. You know, I had some officials here in this office from the government of El Salvador during the UN General Assembly meetings in September of last year. And they said that wallet-to-wallet transfers between their expatriates that live here in the United States to their moms and dads in El Salvador, if they could do it over the Bitcoin network versus having to pay a Western Union or some other wire service, they could save over $400 million a year. And so this is going to be part of our future. This is sort of like an operating software for value transfer, value transactions, and it's cheaper. The same way you and I are doing this phone call or this Zoom call, and it's virtually costless. But if we did something like this 40 years ago, we probably couldn't have a television connected to it, but we could have a phone call together. It would have cost us, the telephone company was charging us per minute 40 years ago. Well, the banks are still thinking like that. They charge us per transaction, or if you have low amounts of money at the bank, at least here in the United States, they charge you a monthly service fee to have that money. And that's why millions of Americans are unbanked. But Bitcoin provides them this other alternative. It's sort of a way to transact without having to use the third parties of the banking system.
Okay, I think you've made a spirited case for the Bitcoin, or for Bitcoin, I should say. Can we move on to what's going to be a pretty seismic day in British politics tomorrow when our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, goes to visit Donald Trump at the White House? How should he play it, Anthony?
I mean, okay, listen, I mean, everyone doesn't want to say this because he's the leader of the free world, but Trump has obviously got something wrong with him. I mean, I don't know if you saw that artificially intelligent Trump Gaza video that he posted on his own Truth Social network. And so anybody that looks at that, whether you're a clinical profiler for MI6 or the CIA, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that something's wrong with Trump. It's like if someone in British football broke their leg and the bone was sticking out, you don't have to be an orthopedic surgeon to know that there's a broken bone. So I would say to Keir Starmer, the guy is unwell, and he's surrounded by willing sycophants that want to pretend that he's not unwell. And you'll do yourself and your country a service if you are polite to him and you give him some gratuitous flattering, but you try to stay away from him if you can. Don't get too close to his orbit because he'll end up eating you. He harms everybody in his path. He's not well liked. He's not well liked by his family members. Not well liked by his staff. But they're there because he's a powerful person.
Well,
But
you
I would just tell
yourself.
Keir Starmer, stay away from him because he's a dangerous guy. In a couple of years, he'll burn himself out. The United Kingdom will exist, and Donald Trump will be long in our rearview mirror.
Yeah. So you worked for him and you liked him well enough to do that. Millions of people voted for him. What's changed?
Well, I did work for him, and I did like him. I'm not. You can't corrupt history. I have to own the mistakes that I've made in my life. But what I didn't see in him, which he's now shown to the world, is this: he's in singular service for himself and the attention that he's getting and the money that he can potentially make. He's not in service of the world. He doesn't think about himself as the leader of the free world the way I think you or I or other people would like to think about that role and that, frankly, responsibility. And so, no, I didn't see that. I made that mistake. I've owned that mistake. But then again, there's shortcomings on the Democratic Party because of the way they handle themselves with this improper intergenerational transfer of power in their party. They could have beaten Donald Trump. Remember, he only won by 1.5% of the votes, and that was with the party in full disarray, with a president, unfortunately, that was cognitively sunsetting. And then they forced Vice President Harris into the race 107 days after the election.
We don't have too much time, Anthony. And I know that you have on X recently said that you think that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, might eventually, perhaps quite soon, just give up. He just can't do it anymore. Do you stick by that?
Well, just take a look at his body language. Look at the body language that he was with Macron in the Oval Office. Rubio has stood with the West, and Rubio has stood with the liberal democracies. I don't think he loves the Secretary of State that we're voting with North Korea, Russia, and China on certain issues, and we're basically lying about who started the war who started the Ukrainian war. And so for me, I think he's going to break. I think he's a principled guy generally, as principled as politicians can be, and I expect him to say no mas and to walk away from this. I don't think he's going to be able to do this much longer.
And I thought I probably was almost unshockable when it came to Donald Trump, but actually the AI video that he shared today, and you've already referenced it, I mean, is it a new low? Can things get worse?
Well, first of all, there's no level of low. Okay, so as low as you think he can get, if Dante was writing about Trump, there wouldn't be 9 circles of hell. There would be an infinite level of circles. You can't get low with Donald Trump. He's going to find a way to get lower. And so next week there'll be something even more disturbing. But he's not well. I think that's the number one thing that we have to explain to people. And we have to be honest about that. People fear him. They fear his retribution. They fear people like Kash Patel. But this is the United States. We still live in a free country and have the right to speak out. And we'll see how long that lasts here in the United States. But I have a tendency to believe that our government and our people will outlast the corruptible forces of Donald Trump.
Well, we've ended on a positive note. Thank you very much, Anthony. Love the podcast, which is The Rest is Politics USA with Katty Kay. That was Anthony Scaramucci, and his book on Bitcoin is out now.